Topic 1, Understanding Conflict Styles. Hi Ellie, welcome back. This is our second set of sessions. So earlier in the year we did 6 sessions, and one of those was understanding conflict and how there was an ideal conflict point. So there we were talking about there's a space where you can have a balanced, sensible conversation. Now, as I understand it, in this first session, we're going to talk about a model that builds on that. It's taking it to the next step. Is that right?
Yes, that's right, Liz. So what we want to do now is explore the different ways we can step into conflict, or the different styles. And this is a model by Thomas Kilman, and he talks about different styles of how we normally like to approach or step into conflict. Now, most people have a default style, or a style they're most comfortable in. What we want to do is explore all of the styles and then think about how we can flex into all of them depending on the situation. So let's look at each of the styles. So the first style is competing, and that's a win at all costs style, where we need to seek a resolution and make sure that we win at all costs. The second one is collaborating, where we seek a win-win solution. So again, it might be making sure that everyone's needs are satisfied. Compromising is finding that middle ground and thinking about how we can kind of partially satisfy everybody. And then avoiding is sidestepping conflict, or perhaps putting it aside to a better time, or thinking about perhaps how we approach it later with a different mindset. And the last one is accommodating, which is yielding to others. Now, each of these styles has a legitimate place. It's knowing your default style and then also adapting your style to maintain psychological safety. So making sure you're picking the best style that suits the situation that you're seeing.
So how do you know which style suits the situation?
So sometimes we might have a competing style, for example, when there's a safety issue. So we need to get our message across. We need to say something was unsafe. This is how we're doing it, and this is how it's going to be done or handled. Yeah. So that's when really what we're saying, we're not doing that anymore. This is what we're doing. We need to win, and we're not going to kind of meet halfway around safety. Right. Okay? So then there might be another time where perhaps what we want to do is compromise, where perhaps it's more important for you in terms of relationships. So it might be better that I find out what you need and I compromise and I give you what you need, and perhaps sacrifice some of my own needs to build relationships. Collaborating is when we both get a little bit and we work together. So I get something, you get something, and again that might build a compromising type or a collaborating type of situation. Again, if it's really unsafe, we might need to avoid. If someone's really upset, if it's not the right environment, then we would avoid stepping into conflict. Right. But we would come back to it later. Gotcha. So you can see that every style is legitimate. It's about understanding where we use each style. And if we're always competing, that can make us look like we're a bully or we're harassing people, because we're not opening it up for conversation and for meeting halfway.
So you've got to understand what your default style is, and then with that knowledge, basically read the room, look at the circumstances, because the right style will very much depend on the circumstances, is what I'm hearing.
Yes, that's exactly right, Liz. Yeah. So it's really about having that situational awareness and thinking about how we're going to create a psychologically safe environment where we're not triggering a psychosocial hazard, but we're also making sure that everyone feels heard and we're sitting in that ideal conflict spot. So we're not in artificial harmony where we're not saying anything at all. We're not in destructive conflict where it's mean-spirited and it's attacks and it's bullying and harassment. We're in that middle pot where it's ideal conflict, where everyone feels heard.
So, key takeaways?
So some key takeaways for leaders really is to reflect on your default conflict style, particularly under pressure, because under pressure we tend to default to what comes naturally to us. Match our style with the situation. So perhaps use competing for urgent issues, collaborating for more complex ones. Avoid extremes. So unresolved conflict increases psychosocial risk. So again, think about how do we balance? It's all about balance.
Mm-hmm. And with this series, I understand you're offering downloadable tools and worksheets, what have you, for our viewers, because it's one thing for us to talk about it, it's quite another for our viewers to then pick up that knowledge and apply it to their workplace. So what do we have today?
So we have a downloadable, and you're very right, there's a lot more to these models. So what we've done is created a downloadable that has lots and lots of information there for you. It also has some reflection points, some action steps that you can take, and it's a great resource that you can take with you and have with you to navigate all of the topics that we're going to be talking about.
Lovely. Okay, well, thank you very much, Ellie.
Thanks, Liz.